never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Hello, beautiful, wonderful people. How are you? I trust you've had a good weekend. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm still got a face full of snot, so I apologise for the way that I sound. And I'm not sure how long my voice will hold up, but it hasn't been lasting terribly long for the last few days, I'll be honest. I've been trying to rest it as much as I possibly can. But people keep ringing me and saying, hey, listen, we're sending you healings and all sorts of things. And my God, does it work? Oh, thank you to everybody who has sent healings of all sorts of different natures to me over the last few days. I'll be honest, I feel it. I really do feel it. It's a very amazing feeling when you get hit by this energy. And I have no doubt I'd be still a lot sicker without having had the benefit of the folks like Rachel and Tony, and a few others who've been sending healing. I don't know how else you say it, sending healing to me. So gratefully received, and I think working very, very well. Only just got a bit of a snotty nose left. Although for some reason or other, at 3 o'clock this morning, I was woken up in a cold sweat and demanded to go and immediately throw up. So I did that too. Not that I'd eaten anything weird or anything. I'm trying to lose a bit of weight at the moment. So I have a plan before Christmas. So I'm being pretty good with what I'm eating. And I don't think I'd poisoned myself or anything silly. But anyway, once that was out of me, huge change in me. And it goes to say a little bit of what's been going on, I feel, in the last few days. Cass, I saw, posted this up on her Facebook page earlier today. And I thought this describes exactly what's really going on with me. And for probably many of us at the moment. The Lionsgate portal has been opened. Now, for those of you that are following the sun's energy and the kinds of energy that it is putting out towards Earth and what that effect has on Earth, Australia was wrapped in an energy field over the last few days. And this energy field is designed, in theory, to help lift us up. So July 26th is seen as the opening of the Lionsgate portal, a celestial gateway of awakening that peaks on the 8th of August. It's the energetic threshold where time bends, intuition sharpens, and timelines shift. July 26 marks the helical rising of the star Sirius in alignment with the sun, an ancient moment revered by the Egyptians as the beginning of a new year. Symbolizing rebirth, prosperity, and divine connection, Sirius is the brightest star in the night sky, and it is out there at the moment. You can see it, and it is known as the spiritual sun. Now, on this day, you may feel a rise. You might remember who you are and begin walking the path your soul came here to fulfill. To learn what this means for you, there's a book written about it. Lionsgate. I can't give you the link because I couldn't find it. I'll have to go back and have a look. But Cass will let me know how I can find that. Those energies have been talked about now for some months, and it's sort of an upgrade for us. And I think I said one day last week that maybe this is the upgrade that we've been expecting, and it's just hit me particularly hard for whatever reason. But I got to say, I woke up this morning, I feel full of energy, full of life, full vim and vigor, ready to go. Just wish I could get rid of this snot out of my face and the rather raspy noise out of my voice. Before I press on, I do want to thank some other folks who've been out helping in various different ways. And one of those folks is no shortage. In fact, I'm going to have to give this guy a deal soon, I think. We're going to have to promote him in some way. Not that he has a business worth promoting, or that he wants to promote or anything like that, but this guy could be my fashion police. You might notice this rather dapper jacket I'm wearing this evening, fully woolly lined and all that. That is because this is a Tasmanian winter grade jacket, which turned up in a box today, or a bag today, from Black Sheep in Tasmania. Now, This bloke has been responsible for dressing me for winter, probably for the better part of the last 2 years. I'm wearing his jacket. I'm wearing one of the shirts that he sent me. What you can't see, and I will save you from, is the flannelette pajamas that he sent me as well. And I can't thank him enough, because whenever he sends me something, he throws in one of these. So this is a rather interesting 1 ounce silver coin. It's from the EU. I've never seen an EU coin before, and I haven't taken any photos. I don't think you're going to be able to see up close on that. Oh, you might. There is a whole heap of instruments, and there's a cello in there in the middle of that, and a whole heap of musical instruments and whatnot. And then on the other side, looks like the European Parliament, I'm guessing, on the back of that. So thank you, brother. I can't thank you enough. These things that turn up in the mail to me from you are always very warm, either to my heart or to my body, or both. So thank you very much, mate. I can't thank you enough. And I'm slightly embarrassed that you're dressing me, but I'm very grateful for it. Can I just say that? Thank you, mate. All right. Someone else I wanted to thank was Vince for Friday night. He stepped in with an hour's notice. I'd been trying to ring him during the day, but he was unconscious. So when he did wake up, he rang me back, and he literally had less than an hour's notice to try and put something together for a show. When he said, "Oh, do you want me to do the show?" I said, yeah, if you want to. Happy to let you do the show. And I realized that, and so does Vince, that he isn't your normal presenter on for the show, that kind of thing. I want to thank you for those who said nice things about Vince stepping in for me. It was a little hurtful to see some people saying, "Oh, don't ever let Vince do this again." Vince isn't a professional presenter, all right? And some could argue neither am I, particularly with the way that I present these days. But I've had a lot more experience doing it, and I can sit here and talk to you for an hour without one single page of notes around me. All right. Now, sometimes I will speak absolute shit and gibberish. I understand that, but I do try and keep a bit of a flow to it. That's not something that anybody can just step up and do. Okay. And I'm not trying to blow air up my own ass. I've just been in a business that's demanded I be able to do that for 40 years. So that's why I can sit here and do what I do and make it look as easy as it appears to be. So for those folks who got into the chat on Friday night and left comments after the show in the comment sections on the various different channels, look, I'm okay with you having your opinion, but why do you feel you have a right or a need to exercise that opinion in a derogatory way over other people? Now, Vince is the first one to tell you he's not a professional presenter. He did what he did because he knows the family, the Voice of Freedom family, needed to hear something from us on Friday night. And he could hear how sick I was. So he knew that I wasn't going to be able to play the game. And he stepped up. So for those folks who criticize Vince for doing that, pull your heads in. Or send me your email address, and next time I'm sick, you can do the bloody show. And let's see how good you are. I'd be very keen to try that out. Let's see who's brave enough. Email me, carl@vofhq.com, if you want to be on my next sick list parade. We'll see how good you are. You can learn how to drive this whole system like Vince did in an hour. And see how well you go. And then I'll write a critique of what you do. How would you like that? I don't see why we need to be critical of others at this point in our lives, folks. I really don't see why we need to be critical. I understand there are times when criticism is warranted and is leveled fairly. But if you're just having a go because you don't like somebody's voice, or you don't like the way they look, or you don't like the way they present, piss off. Piss off. Or let me know who you are, and let me turn up with a few cameras, 3 or 4 of them, point them at you, shove microphones in your face, and see how well you go with it. You're not brave. All you're doing is showing what a low human being you are. Right? Because you can't see the good Vince was trying to do. All you can see is the result. of him not being a professional presenter. That really gave me the shits, and it hurt Vince. All right? Not that he said anything to me, but I could hear it. All right? This isn't the kind of family, and I know it probably didn't come from a family member. It probably came from some blow-in who came in on the night and thought they'd be a smart ass or wanted to say something, to make their comment stand out. Well, it stood out, all right. You attracted my attention, you fucktard. So you annoy me, people like that. Here we are talking about trying to be better people all the time, and you keep bringing us down. Why? We could be uplifting each other. We could say, Vince, mate, great effort for a bloke who's not done that more than maybe half a dozen times, like sat down and done a live show like we're doing maybe half a dozen times in his life. Actually, it wouldn't even be that many. I mean, he's done plenty of Zoom meetings, but that's a very different thing to what we're doing here. A very different thing. So if you happen to see any of that sort of criticism, folks, call it out in the chat, will you please? And admins, piss those people off, because I don't want them in the family. If they've got nothing decent to say, if they can't acknowledge somebody having a go and helping someone out, namely me in this instance, then we don't need you as part of our family. You are brain dead already, probably shot up the wazoo with the jibbity jab, and there's nothing we can do for you anymore. We'd like to, but clearly your mentality is showing through, and I couldn't care less about you anymore. All right? The sort of mentality that lowers other people around you when you raise yourself up by criticizing others, this is the kind of behavior I have railed against for the last few years. I think every one of us who is in this space, or most of us at least, have touched on it at some stage. But it is what it's all about. How are we going to level up if we can come out with comments, whether they are meant in jest, and I suppose that happens at times. Aussies are very good with their critical humor, shall we call it. I just don't see the reason to be, as somebody just put, and I just saw the glanced in the chat, I don't see the reason to be a nasty tosser when you're not brave enough to get off your ass and do what Vince did for me, much less do what I do. I mean, I'd love you to get up and start doing it. The more of us that do, the more people will learn. And hopefully from tonight's show, you'll learn a lot. But, I feel quite bad because and Vince says this a lot when he goes to read stuff that he can't read, he staggers or stumbles through it. Everybody does. Okay. Do you remember what it was like when you were asked to stand up in the classroom and read, a page out of the reader in front of the class? You had to stand up and publicly speak. Do you remember what that was like? Well, you were only doing it to a classroom of maybe, 15, 25, 30 people. Vince could be doing it to an audience of 10 or 15,000. Okay, you can't see the audience, but that doesn't mean they don't have an impact on you. They do, especially when you see the chat rolling through here as it does. So I'm very prepared for that because I've been doing it for years. But when somebody who hasn't been doing it and is genuinely trying to help out and trying to do the right thing, then just say, hey, listen, good job. Good try. Good effort. Well done. Chalk another one up. Next one will be different again. Won't be better, won't be worse. Not a matter of that. Vince is one of those kind of people who always strives for, improvement, and so do I. And I just saw Sunflower. Vince needs to stop saying can't. Yes, always say can. Yes, very true. Well, words are spelling. That's what they are. They are spells. So you can cast them on yourself just as easily as others, so to speak. So I just wanted to touch on that because I believe that we are leveling up. I believe there is a spiritual awakening happening right now, and this sun energy is part of that. And I guess we're going to meet in the course of our days many people who have had that upgrade, who that upgrade gets into and takes, and we're going to find many, many more people, unfortunately, that it doesn't take. And I would suggest that anybody who's had the jab, or at least 3 of them, is probably not going to get any kind of an upgrade. That's how I'm sort of viewing this whole thing at the moment. And if you're going to be criticizing people, if you're going to be bringing people down for having a go, then you're not going to be upgrading anytime soon either, I don't think, because you are showing in those actions that you are not able to upgrade. You're not able to view the world in a way that says, well, okay, he had a go. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst. I've seen a lot worse. And he had a go. We should all be giving each other that sort of encouragement, not just Vince, but everybody. I just don't understand why people choose to be critical. And as somebody just said in the chat, he does really well on Coin Toss. Yes, he does. Coin Toss is a crypto show that he's put together on FBN Media, our other channel, and he hosts that. He researches it all himself, looks after it all himself, and I think he does it every Saturday night. Now, that's all off his own bat. You don't go and criticize him for what he's talking about in that show because he knows his shit inside out. Why? Because he's had time to research it. What do you think I do here during the day most days? I sit here and I read, I watch, I listen to copious amounts of shit and then try and eke from that pile of shit something worthwhile and of use to speak to you about. That takes me most of the day. Now, I don't get out of bed at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm usually out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning. I very rarely go to bed before 10 o'clock at night. And the whole day is spent looking at information that is coming in. And then when I find something that I think, oh, yeah, that's good, that's interesting, we'll use that, we'll go and look at that, then it's incumbent upon me to go and try and find out as much about it, starting with, is it fake or is it real? And sometimes that's not easy to discern. It takes a while. And in fact, we're dealing with one of those at the moment, and we will speak more on it tomorrow night when Cass joins me. We've been speaking about changes to seniors and how seniors are going to be viewed by the government in apparently the not too distant future. There has been a video going around saying a great many things about people over 60 now going to need to go and get driver's license checks done every year, doctor's tests, all that kind of thing. When it comes to being in charge of your own estate, if you are over 60 or over 65, if you want to get access to it, you're going to need to get permissions or ticked boxes from psychologists and doctors and all sorts of things to say that you are of a fit and proper mind to go and get your own friggin' super out. Well, it turns out that these videos that are being put out by AI that look very, very convincing are misleading in very many ways. And we'll go into that tomorrow night with Cass. But it takes time to find that out. We've been researching that particular story for 2 weeks, trying to find anything that will back it up, trying to find anything that will lead us to an author, lead us to somebody who wants to talk about it. And we'll take you a bit through that tomorrow night. But be aware, I am very fortunate in that I get to stay on this property at the moment, clean up around here, doing a bit of work when I can. But for the most part, I get to sit here and try and put something together for you. I used to do it in a professional capacity, and they paid me a pretty bloody good wage every day or every week to sit there and do it. What did I do for 8 hours a day? Well, maybe 4 of them I was on the air. What did I do for the 4 hours? Because my shows used to be 4 or 6 hours long, not one. What did I do for 4 or 6 hours? How did I make that happen? Well, those sorts of shows, you have to plan them. You've got to know what you're talking about. You've got to go and find all the bits and pieces you want to use. And if it's not entertaining, your ratings dry up and you find yourself out on your ass without a job. So you need to know what you're doing a little bit. And research is all part of that. So please be mindful when you feel, not just with Vince, but when you see other people coming on and doing things for the first time or maybe are new to it. Give them a break. Give them a break, please, because they're doing something you're not brave enough to go and do in most cases. Or maybe you are brave enough to go and do it, and maybe you are exceptionally good at it. in which case I would think it's incumbent upon you to encourage those coming up under you and give them a way that they can improve. There are little things, and I'm guilty of it as much as anybody else. There are what we call hang words or interim words. Most people use when they're blocking time to try and think of what they're going to say next. We aim to not say too much in the radio game, but it does happen. And it happens here because I work pretty much completely unscripted. And when I see something pop up in the chat or I say something and it triggers a memory or something else that I want to talk about, it can fragment the mind very quickly and I lose track of what I'm talking about. And that's when you'll hear me say, that's because my brain's lost track and I'm trying to find where I'm back again. It's a great example of why you should write out what you are saying. Don't have to do it word for word, do it in points. Okay, just point form. As long as that point triggers your story about that point, you'll be able to ad-lib your way through the whole thing completely. And you might and ah once or twice. But because if you know your subject matter, you know it. It will just come from you naturally. And that's what a lot of us already do, because the subject matter we know is the bastardry and the fuckery that has been taken to us. I've just been told there's another parcel waiting for me at the post office. How strange is that at this time of night? Was that you, Katrina? I don't know. Well, I didn't have it today because I asked. Must have come in later this afternoon. Not to worry, I will pop in tomorrow and see. And these are this is another parcel from Katrina and Tony out west, who know that I'm sick and have sent me some vitamins and goodies to rebuild myself up. So thank you very much for that. So anyway, let's move on. I didn't want to have that little rant, but it sort of got up my nose a little bit. There are so many people here who are presenting in this sort of arena who are just the worst presenters I've ever seen in my friggin' life. But I don't come out and tell them they're the worst presenters I've ever seen in my life. I might try and encourage them to do things a little differently or give them ways and means and how to do things differently. But from where they started to where they are today, they're 1,000 times better than what they were. And they haven't done it with my aid or my help in most part. Although, no, they haven't done it with my aid. But I'm here to help if required. Never have I scrimped or said I won't teach somebody how to do this. If you want to learn, I'll teach you. And in fact, Vince asked me this morning, did we talk? Yes, I think we talked this morning or yesterday, that he wants me to start offering you lessons if you want to learn how to speak or read like I do. I don't know that any of you really want to do that, but if that is something you're interested in doing, and Vince certainly has an idea that you would pay for this service, then email Vince and talk to him about it, and he's going to come back and try and convince me of it. I don't think there's enough of you that would be remotely interested in learning how to do what I do to make it worthwhile. But if that is the case and you want to do it, well, I'm happy to start a lesson and, have some people on. If you want to learn, we can teach. I don't know that I'm a good teacher, but if you're a good mimic, you'll walk away with some real skills. But I'm happy to try and help out there if that's the case. But email Vince and say, yeah, this is something I'd like to do, because I've got about 27,000 emails that turn up every day at the moment, and they might get lost. So if it goes to Vince, then it won't get lost. It will come back to me in a big way. Let's get into a few of the interesting things that are happening. Did you hear about this? This happened last week. Thousands of members of the alphabet community and the sex worker communities can now donate plasma, that's blood, in Australia without having to wait 3 months from the last time they had sex. Now, I recall that there were restrictions placed on alphabet people donating blood. I want to say it was more gay men than anything else at the time, through AIDS. That was the big issue. Then, of course, there has been an issue of tainted blood that has gone through blood banks. People who have had sexually communicated diseases or have other blood diseases that have gone unreported by the person who's gone in to donate the blood and have not been picked up in any screening process before the blood has been used. And lo and behold, the person that it gets used on winds up developing the same problems that the donor has. Now, these laws were instigated many moons ago, from my recollection, because of that crossover transmission risk. What's changed? What has changed? I mean, seriously, folks, if you were relying on the blood bank's blood or plasma to get you through an operation or something these days, I think you're a very, very brave human being. You deserve a medal, because Christ knows what's in that blood. The only safe blood to put in your own body is your own blood. And I would suggest that if you are going in for surgery, and many of you know you are going in for surgery some days, weeks, or months in advance, particularly for things like knees and hip replacements, you know you're going in. It doesn't happen tomorrow. You don't get the phone call today, say, yeah, come in tomorrow. You know it's going to be some time. My advice to you is stock up on your own blood and make sure they use that in the surgery. It can be done. You can do this. So inquire about it and see what you can do. In fact, it is possible for you to get somebody to come to your house, take your blood, and for you to store it. But blood can only be stored, it has to be stored in a certain way, and can only be stored for a certain period of time. So find out all the details on that before you start doing that. But if you're going in for surgery, stay the hell away from anything that's come out of a blood bank. There is so much wrong with the blood bank. So much. We've spoken about it in this program at other times, and we might get back into it while we review a few of these stranger things. But in fact, part of that's what's going to happen tonight. I think it's about time we do review a little bit on the last few years. Now, you probably won't be able to read that, so let me read it for you. This is a Q drop that came out 11/14/2017 at 21:25:09. For you Q droppers, you'll want to know all of that. This is what it says, and I want you to think about this, bearing in mind that this came out in 2017. For the coming days ahead, ask yourself an honest question. Why would a billionaire who has it all, fame, fortune, a warm, loving family, friends, etc., want to endanger himself and his family by becoming POTUS? Why would he want to target himself and those he cares about? Does he need money? Does he need fame? What does he get out of this? Very good question. Does he want to make the US and the world a better place for his family and for those good and decent people who have long been taken advantage of? I would agree that he does. Perhaps he could not stomach the thought of mass murders occurring to satisfy Moloch, because that is what they had planned for us, have no doubt. Perhaps he couldn't stomach the thought of children being kidnapped, being drugged and raped, while leaders and law enforcement of the world turned a blind eye to it. Perhaps he was tired of seeing how certain races and countries were being constantly abused and kept in need, in poor state, and in suffering, all for a very specific purpose. Perhaps he couldn't, in good consciousness, see the world burn. Perhaps he couldn't, in good consciousness, figure out why hours after the election, just hours after his election in 2016, 7 people travelled to an undisclosed location to hold a very private and highly secure and guarded meeting. Why didn't Hilary Clinton give a concession speech? When was the last time that a presidential candidate didn't personally give a concession speech? I don't think it had ever happened in the history of US politics. I don't think it's happened anywhere. What happens if the border remained open and the mainstream media continued to brainwash? Well, we saw the results of what happened there. At what point do the patriots, the hard-working men and women, become the minority? Do you think we're approaching that point now, folks? Don't know. What about voting machines? Well, we've all got questions about those. Who owns the voting machines? That seems to be a big question. And what about voter ID laws? Not just in America, but here in Australia as well. We need our voting laws overhauled. We need the AEC shut down, overhauled, and reopened under a different name with completely different people who aren't corrupt. But that's just our side. Should we have photo ID? Bloody oath we should. If you're going in to vote, you should be able to demand a photo ID so that the person who is meant to vote is actually voting and only gets to vote once. I know that many people run around their electorates on voting day and vote numerous times. It's disgusting. Polling booth to polling booth, run in. And all because it's so manually done. You know, they get the ruler and the old lady with their glasses and draw a line through your name. And then you piss off around the corner, go to the next box, and somebody with little glasses and a ruler draws the line through your name again. Hand you a second, a third, a fourth ballot. That happens. And it doesn't happen with just one or two people. It happens with lots of people. What chance of defeating evil, or would the chances of defeating evil grow less and less with each passing year? Well, the last few years have been testing. Why, again, were the arrests made in SA so very important? South Africa, that was. There were some very important arrests made in South Africa. You'll have to go back to 2017 maybe and have a look at that. What strings were immediately cut and follow the money? And when does a bird sing? Well, I think that tweet or that Q drop from 2017 sets us up for something else, to review so much of what has happened since that came out in 2017, just after the election of Donald Trump. Do you remember a lady named Sidney Powell? We haven't heard or seen anything of Sidney Powell in about 3 years. It's very strange. She also had, there's another bloke who's gone missing too, a guy called Trey Gowdy, who is doing a Fox radio job at the moment. But I know about radio. I know how that can be done when you're not in the studio. And I don't believe that Trey Gowdy is in any studio. I believe he's in a court. But let's have a look at or just revisit what Sidney Powell had to say. And this is going back to 2017 as well.
I wrote an article for the New York Observer ages ago called "The Countless Crimes of Hillary Clinton" that went viral. I think Rush might have even read it online, on air. There are probably things she could still be indicted for, and frankly, I think should, because the Espionage Act very clear violations of the Espionage Act, and really no issue about intent, despite President Obama proclaiming otherwise. And of course, you realize the reason that Hillary had to be protected was because he was writing her on that secret server using an alias, which shows that he damn well knew and had approved in advance her use of the secret unsecured server. On top of that, there's the Anthony Weiner laptop, which I don't know if you heard this. I wrote an article about that too. 675,000 Clinton emails when they got Anthony Weiner's laptop in a search warrant because of all his sex perversion issues. It was all the Clinton emails, the Clinton Foundation, her Secretary of State emails, Huma Abedin's emails. Lots of people emailed Huma as a proxy for Hillary, and it included what Comey called I must wave my hands more than most people. The golden emails, because they were the BlackBerry backup emails that they were supposedly just looking for everywhere very diligently. Well, guess what they did when they found them on the Weiner laptop? They got a search warrant for things that didn't include the BlackBerry backup emails. So when they told us, when he stood there and said that day, we've reviewed all the emails now, there's nothing there, that was a bald-faced lie. They specifically did not look at the BlackBerry backups, and they didn't look at a fraction of the emails on Anthony Weiner's laptop. So one of the things, if I were the president, I'd do is demand the Anthony Weiner laptop and get it to the most trusted person in the military to take apart everything on it and then start using it. There's a lot that can be prosecuted, I have no doubt, on that laptop. In fact, I heard that the New York police officers who saw some of it, even though they're hardened investigators, literally had to go throw up. It's bad.
She's talking about the Anthony Weiner laptop, which was a treasure trove for investigators when they managed to get hold of it. She's also talking about the Frazzle Drip video, which is part of that. and something that she alluded to but happened after this speech, was that a number of those New York police detectives who had seen the Weiner laptop committed suicide. Apparently they were all pretty well before that, but they decided they were going to commit suicide after watching that. Dan Bongino is not going to be committing suicide anytime soon, I don't feel. He is the deputy director of the FBI, and a couple of weeks ago it sounded like he was about ready to throw in the job and go back to his very successful podcasting business and start telling some absolute truths. But he has also released a statement in the last 24 hours or so, which I find very interesting. It says, during my tenure here as the Deputy Director of the FBI, I have repeatedly relayed to you that things are happening that might not be immediately visible, but they are happening. The Director and I are committed to stamping out public corruption and the political weaponization of both law enforcement and intelligence operations. It is a priority for us. But what we have learned in the course of our properly predicated and necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters has shocked me down to my core. We cannot run a republic like this. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. We're going to conduct these righteous and proper investigations by the book and in accordance with the law. We're going to get the answers we all deserve. As with any investigation, I cannot predict where it will land, but I can promise you an honest and dignified effort at truth. Not my truth or your truth, but the truth. God bless America and all those who defend her. That's a very, very powerful message that Dan Bongino is putting out there. He has either been placed under a great deal of pressure to say that things are going ahead, and I don't think Dan Bongino is the kind of bloke who will cave under that sort of pressure to tell a lie publicly. Right now, I would say when it comes to a trust stake, Dan Bongino in the US public eye is probably very close to 100% trusted. Kash Patel, less so. I was having a conversation about this with somebody yesterday, and I think that Kash Patel's believability is probably down around 80%. They believe it's stronger at around 90%. Even still, 80 to 90 isn't bad, I guess. It's not 100%, but it's not bad. The general consensus is that both Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are going after the bad guys. We have followed the Q drops, we have followed Q, we have followed the advice and the instructions over the last nearly 10 years now. There are plenty of advice in those directives that say this is not a short-term thing. It's going to take a long time to do. We, I feel, have lost sight of many of the important elements that we were introduced to back in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. And those elements, because of the fog of crap that was put out by the Biden administration, and that only came after all the interference that was put into the first presidential term of Donald Trump, where he wasn't a lame duck president, but he was unable to do anything critical because of the deep state members Obama had planted deeply into the bureaucracy of the American government. Now, Trump thought he'd be able to go in and replace many of those, but it turned out that wasn't the case. And what happened? We get the creation of the Russia hoax. Now, this hoax was completely contrived and completely paid for by Hilary Rodham Clinton. That has been proven now. The Steele dossier was put together by a group directly paid by Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. It has been disproven. It has been laughed out of everything from high-level high-level intelligence meetings, all the way to press rooms around the world. But as it turns out, everything we were saying about the Russia collusion hoax was indeed a hoax. And it has now been laid to bear because a former Democrat has now been put in charge of what I think was a bloody brilliant move on behalf of Trump. They've put a woman who knew military, had been in the military, been serving actively, I think, in Iraq and maybe Afghanistan, and put her down as the director of national intelligence. Her name is Tulsi Gabbard. Now, here is what she outlined from just a couple of weeks after Donald Trump won the 2016 election. On December 7, 2016, the assessment reiterates. Now, this assessment that she's talking about is the intelligence community assessment. Now, that is made up of all the different intelligence arms of the American intelligence industry, let's call it. And they consistently were saying on December the 7th, and had been all the way leading up to that. You might remember after Comey came out and said, they had to reopen the investigation into Hillary's server. That was in October. She went apoplectic. All that went away again in about 2 days. No, nothing to see here. Move on, move on. They really did not believe for 1 second that Trump was ever going to win this election, because Hillary had paid over $20 million to its alleged Dominion voting machines to make sure that she won. And there was no way that she could lose. That's how confident everybody was. Not just Hillary, but Obama and co as well. Well, unfortunately, Donald Trump had much more support than they wagered on. And he cleaned up, won in a landslide, the biggest election win in US history, without faking it, because Biden took the fake win the next election round. Oh, yes, won by more votes than anybody had ever seen in an American election before. Anyway, back to what we were saying about December the 8th on 2016, a new intelligence brief was put out after a meeting that was held on December the 7th. So they cancelled the brief that was going to be put out on the 8th, and under Obama's direction, ordered a new assessment to be made, and that new assessment took a month to put together and was released on January the 6th, 2017. Now, January the 6th, 2017 just happened to be the day that all hell was going to break loose, we thought, in the US Congress. That was the day that Mike Pence was meant to stand up and say, we cannot ratify these election results. There are too many questions over it. Instead, like the coward and crook that he is, he stayed stum, and life, the universe, and everything got a little difficult. I beg your pardon, I've got my years mixed up. That's a year later. So January the 6th, a new assessment was released that basically said in 2017 that Trump was being used by the Russians, that they had infiltrated the election, that he was their puppet, and this was all made up bullshit. Tulsi Gabbard has also released, alongside these point forms, she has released a detailed breakdown, particularly focused on Obama's involvement. And Obama's involvement is very, very deep. He has orchestrated this entire thing along with Hillary Rodham Clinton. But he, have no doubt, was at the head of the puppet strings. He was doing the pulling. She may have been doing a little bit of pulling on the sides as well, but she was also dancing to his tune. And that's the way it was meant to be all through the 2016 to 2020 period, where Trump wasn't meant to be elected, but was. What have we seen from Hillary since? Not too much. What have we seen from Obama since? Well, he's staying well out of the limelight, but we do see his fingerprints on a great many things that are happening around the world. And there now seems to be a lot of questions about the treasonous actions that he has taken, the treasonous actions that we have been talking about since 2017. And it looks like there might be something to see here. Now, Tulsi Gabbard has made it very clear that the reports that have now been declassified, the investigative reports into all of this shit that happened back in 2016, 2017, and I suspect 2018, 2019, and 2020, are released. And those that aren't released yet will be released as this whole thing unravels. Why is it unraveling this way? Why is Tulsi Gabbard doing this? Why is Trump, running around Scotland hitting golf balls that have been, thrown by his henchmen out on the grass to make it look like he didn't lose the ball or hit it too far out into the rough? I wouldn't take any measure of that against Trump. I know professional golfers who do exactly the same thing. The difference is they don't even go and fetch the ball. I don't suppose Trump does either. But if they happen to punch a ball out off the fairway or wherever, they don't bother going to get it. They'll just walk down to where it fell and drop another ball and play from wherever they want to play. Now, I don't think Trump was playing in a tournament. I don't think he was hosting a tournament. And I'm not even sure that he was playing golf with anyone at the time. So for everybody who's getting all upset and saying, oh, Trump's a cheater at golf, well, who cares? At the end of the day, who cares? And St Andrews isn't a private course. It's a public course. So, but I don't think was he playing at St Andrews? Or was he playing at his course in Scotland, which isn't St Andrews, just between you and the gatepost? Anyway, Obama is now facing a lot of scrutiny. He's put that statement out saying, oh, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. It's all crap, all made up, all lies, all just, we're above all this. Well, they're not. And being an ex-president does certainly give you a measure of being above a great deal of shit when it comes your way. However, and Vince and I discussed this on Friday night before the show, and I think he talked about a little bit about it in the show. This isn't going to help Obama going forward. There is so much evidence of his involvement, not just involvement, his control of the plan. He is seen, and there is so much evidence of it, that he is holding the reins of this runaway horse and directing where it goes to destroy anything to do with Trump in his first iteration as president. And then, of course, they tried to do as much damage as they possibly could and reshore up the deep state while Biden was in power. It didn't work. And that was probably because a great many of those players had been taken out in Trump's first term. We haven't seen any of those trials. We haven't seen any of those hangings or firing squads or anything. And that's, I think, what we're all getting frustrated about. We all want to start seeing this. And it sounds a bit ghoulish, I know, that you want to go and see people killed. But at the end of the day, it's not about seeing them killed. It's about seeing them punished for what they've done to us. And there is still a very, very, very significant movement happening in the background that I do believe is hidden from most of the world to see. And certainly the very significant parts are very definitely hidden from civilians at all times. I believe there is enough being shown to the public to wake more people up if they have a mind to it. Now, I have no doubt there are many unjabbed people who do not believe as we believe. And this, I hope, will start to swing many of them around. It's been interesting just over the weekend. I've had some conversations with people who have been quite shocked at the volume of information that's come out and the research behind that information proving that it is real. The difference between the information that's being handed out by Tulsi Gabbard and any information that was handed out from the Biden administration, the Biden administration, as I was going to call it. Well, the stuff that came out during the Biden administration had no substance to it. It was all lies. Every report that they had to back up a certain statement was a lie. It was a coerced or a corrupt report written with a view to creating as much damage as possible. These are treasonous actions by a former president. Do we think presidential immunity will save him? The short answer to that is no, it will not. It can never save a president from treason. Treason is the highest crime in a land, and the land where the treason was committed is the USA. The highest office in that land, therefore responsible for the treason happening inside that administration, is the head of that administration, and that is Barack Hussein Obama, who people still believe was born an American citizen and is married to a woman. If you actually believe that still, I don't think there's much hope for you. There is so much evidence, so much truth about the whole thing. But if you want to go and continue believing that, then when the world is shocked or fully shown the truth, you might be shocked. You might be shocked so awake that some of the more outlandish shit we talk about, you might think, oh, yeah, great. But most people are going to still hang off the long-awaited Epstein list, the list that existed and then didn't exist, the list that was on Pam Bondi's desk. And if you're seeing the memes going around, Pam Bondi doesn't have a desk anymore. So what memes? What desk? So they are taking some action about trying to put a list together. And today, a list was released. I don't know if it was released by Donald Trump, but it was released. There is a list of 107 names on that list. 100 of them are redacted. But the ones that aren't, and you may not be able to read them down the bottom, are handwritten in. Crooked Hilary, Bruce Springsteen, Sleepy Joe, Elon Musk, Rosie O'Donnell, Barack Hussein Obama, and Eric Trump. That would be. So, Eric Trump. There's an interesting soul, don't you think? Have a look at all of Trump's kids. I would say there's probably no doubt that his daughter is his daughter. I think Don Jr. is definitely sprung from Don Sr.'s loins. Eric doesn't look like he's come anywhere out of a Trump. Not even close. So we might have to watch that one a little closely. And then, of course, there is the young Trump, Barron, who seems to be about a foot taller than his father. Not quite, but 6 inches taller than his father. Very close to 7 foot is young Barron. And seems to resemble Lady Diana or Princess Diana much more than he resembles Melania or Donald Trump. It's also interesting to note that there is no real height in Melania Trump's family, even dating back to her Russian roots. And her Russian roots are significant. She is related to the former Tsars of Russia, like Putin is. And we've spoken before about Putin's reason for being, and that is to avenge what happened to his relations back in the early 1900s. This is all leading into what's playing out at the moment. This is how the world was subjugated back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, with so many different things at the time blowing up, sinking, losing very wealthy people on ships that ran in supposedly into icebergs. There's a whole heap of truth that you're about to find out, folks, and I can't wait for it to come out. I've been reading about it, thinking about it for I don't know how long, and it looks like now we're going to get a bit more out of it. Something else that we're going to see pretty soon, I haven't been able to check this completely, but it seems a House panel has made moves to subpoena the Clintons in an Epstein investigation. That will mean that Hilary and Bill both have to front a House panel. It will probably be public unless there is some overarching mitigating circumstance that the Clintons could possibly put forward that would mitigate in some way the public's need to know. And the House might then decide to have a closed door hearing, in which case you'll only get a précis of what was discussed and not even a decent one at that. So I don't think that will stand up if this is a real deal, and I haven't had time to check it. If this is a real deal, then this is going to have to go all the way, I would say, publicly. The world wants to see Bill and Hilary. And I can guarantee you that should Bill ever be put in that position in the Congress, I think you can guarantee 100% he's going to start suffering from Alzheimer's. And it's very believable. If you see a picture of Bill Clinton today, he looks like the Walking Dead. Seriously, it looks like Moloch has just sucked whatever life force there was in him out of him. He is an empty husk of a man. Mind you, being married to Hilary would probably do that to anybody, I dare say. What's going to happen if war breaks out? How would you be if the internet went down? And I guess you're going to say, oh, I'd be fine. Well, all right, put yourself to the test. Turn the internet off and I'll see you this time next Monday. Let me know how you went. No use of the internet at all. No use of electronic banking. Nothing. That's exactly what will happen. And it will happen instantly in any war that Australia decides to go and involve itself in, should those players come down our way. We have 15 cables bringing the internet and telephone lines into this country. The Russians have submarines. The Americans have submarines. The Chinese have submarines that do nothing except go across the ocean floors, finding these cables and positioning themselves to cut them at any time. The way they do this is the submarine will go over the top of the cable. It will lift it because it will be embedded in a bit of sediment. It will lift it out, and they have these giant hydraulic cutters on the thing. They basically hold the cable in those cutters until such time as they want this cable cut. And you might find that some of those submarines have been in place for a long time, and they're now starting to look like bits of ocean floor themselves, bits of reef or, whatever. So they're very, very hard things to find, but the American Navy is doing what it can with their submarines, and I dare say the British Navy will be doing the same to find out where as many of those are located as possible. I doubt they'll be finding them around Australia, though, because we don't have too many American submarines running around down here at the moment, although Talisman Sabre did see 3 of them floating around in various parts of the north. I don't believe any of them came into an Australian port, and they are now, like most of the others involved in Talisman Sabre, heading their way home. The Americans put on a big exit the other day, I want to say from Cairns Airport. They did a tactical takeoff, 3 C-17s, one after the other, with minimal spacing. It was... it was 3 aircraft taking off pretty closely together. But if you get excited about that kind of thing, it was something to get excited about. Obama, let's go back here. Obama has said that he is not listening to any of the bullshit that's being put out by Tulsi Gabbard. And Hillary Clinton has gone and put in memo form exactly what President Obama was thinking, saying, and doing in these meetings in December of 2016. She wrote memos to herself. Unfortunately, she wrote them 2 weeks after the meetings. And if you read that memo, President Obama began the conversation by stressing his continued commitment to ensuring that every aspect of this issue is handled by the intelligence and law enforcement communities by the book. The president stressed that he is not asking about initializing or instructing anything from a law enforcement perspective. He reiterated that our law enforcement team needs to proceed as normally as it would by the book. Doesn't that just happened to be, well, a useful bit of memo from Hilary, until you discover that it wasn't noted at the time of the meeting. It was noted 2 weeks after, and it now very much, when you look at all the other information that has been made available that has been declassified, it looks very much like Hilary is trying to lay a bit of a bit of snow over her trail, shall we call it. She is a sick, strange woman. Well, how is it all going to come to an end? Well, it might come to an end because Ghislaine Maxwell does appear to have been granted limited immunity in exchange for cooperating with the Department of Justice. Now, the Trump haters are going to say that Donald Trump's personal attorney, who he made the assistant head of the DOJ when he became president, has been personally handling these conversations with Ghislaine Maxwell. She's been taken out of the Florida penitentiary that she's been serving her 20-year sentence in, and she's been taken to a hotel where these meetings have taken place. She's been deposed. And, of course, there have been some conversations about what she'll tell, what she won't tell. I guess if she wants to get a pardon, she's going to have to come clean with all of it, you would think. And it claims that she has given a list of these 100 names, which I showed you earlier. Now, Trump is also alluding to the fact that we should be checking into certain individuals that he has named directly. Do you seriously believe that the President of the United States of America would adversely name people like heads of hedge funds, heads of Harvard University, like the dean, ex-dean of Harvard University, or chancellor, the head chancellor dude? Do you think he would actually name these people if there was any doubt of their involvement in some of the horrifying crimes that have been committed against children in America for the last 100 years or more? Well, if you think that Trump's just going to fight that in court and a defamation case, you're wrong. This information, particularly about those individuals he's named, and he is naming more of them. We're going to expect another release overnight. There'll probably be more tomorrow. It's going to be interesting. He's playing a game where he is removing himself from the investigation, as he should. All right? He is not being bombastic and throwing huge statements out about treasonous Obama or this, that, and the other. And there is a reason for that, I believe. All right? And this is all part of the theater that we are seeing. It has to go this way, because if Trump were to show any kind of personal involvement or interest in what's going on in the prosecution side of all of this, he would very definitely dirty the prosecution. It would be an open and shut case, at least in a public mind, that he was exerting some pressure over those who were prosecuting the case. He has stepped so far back from all of this now, and he's off, playing other people's golf balls and international golf courses. He is out of the argument. The people who are now taking and stepping forward to this are Tulsi Gabbard and others in the bureaucracy, as it should be. We are now waiting for Pam Bondi. Now, will we see anything from her this week? Well, on this particular issue, I don't think so, but I think it'll probably take a week or three before we see too much action from Pam Bondi on what Tulsi Gabbard has released, because they will need to go and do a full investigation of it. Will they acknowledge that investigation is happening? Maybe briefly in a one line on a multi-line memo somewhere. But I don't think they're going to make a big song and dance about it. They don't want that. And Trump doesn't need that. He doesn't need to be forced back into that circle, and he does not need to be associated with any of these crimes from a prosecution perspective, right? Because these crimes were committed against him in great part, but while people perceived the crimes were committed against Donald Trump, the crimes were in reality committed against the President of the United States of America. And that is a very different thing. A very different thing. So expect some fairly interesting news about that, I think, in the rest of this week and coming up in the not too distant future. I'm just going to have a bit of a quick scan here. The first real action is going to prove whether they are full of crap in the prosecution of Obama for treason. I agree. I think they'll go after people around Obama before they go after Obama. If they can charge and convict Clapper, Brennon, Rice, McCann, Comey. You don't have to get all those court cases happen and get them all in jail before you charge Obama, but I think they would need to get all of those cases in train so that Obama can be pinned at the head of it. And who knows which way they will do that. I have no doubt that Sidney Powell will probably be involved. Where is she after, that was probably the last time we really saw Sidney Powell, that little bit that I played you earlier. She has been conducting military tribunals. Sidney Powell was the only accredited attorney in the US who could conduct, as a prosecutor, could prosecute trials in civil and criminal US cases, and is also a military prosecutor under military law, which is a whole different doctrine. And that brings me back to Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy, back in 2016, 2017 was, or leading up to 2020, was a phenomenal voice and supporter of Donald Trump. When Trump got elected, Gowdy resigned his Congress position, which is quite strange. He was a very effective congressman. He was a very well-liked Republican and a very clear-thinking human being that didn't let anybody get away, a bit like Jim Jordan, didn't let anybody get away, and was very good at setting traps. Now, Trey Gowdy had been a federal prosecutor before he got into federal politics, and he had also had some workings with the military. I'm not sure that he was in the military exactly, but whether he had some military case law stuff happening, I don't know, but there was some link there. And I have been told that Trey Gowdy is also working as a prosecutor in these military cases. The Fox radio show that he hosts, the beautiful thing about radio shows is that you can host them from anywhere, and you can literally host them at any time. You would be hard-pressed unless I told you what to look for to know whether this was real, happening live, or if it was pre-recorded. And on radio, it's much easier to do pre-recorded than it is using vision. So I tend to believe Trey Gowdy is involved with the prosecutions at some level, whether it's prosecuting them or organising the arraignments or organising the charges, what, I don't know, but he's doing something with it, I'm sure. Pam Bondi will do nothing. Crunch, I think you're probably right. But won't that say more than if she had actually done something? What do you think Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, if you can believe Dan Bongino's statement, what do you think they would say about that? Do you think that they wouldn't let her get away with it, would they? I mean, she's already had a Bongino rocket upper from last week. And I don't think it's too broad a statement to say the Trump administration may have been completely shocked at the response to Pam Bondi versus the response to Dan Bongino. Do people in the US, do I trust Trump? Well, I wouldn't trust him as much as I trust Dan Bongino right now. That's saying something. I definitely don't think that I would trust him near as much as I would trust Bongino. And I think Bongino will eventually be allowed to tell the story. We need to see those arrests. We need to see those trials. We need to see those guilty as charged, sentenced, and those sentences carried out. But it is what it is. We don't run the timeline. We just get to smile politely and hope and pray that we get to live through it. Keep your head on, folks. Keep your head on. All is not as it seems. I really do believe it is a movie we are playing out. You remember when we were during the COVID fast, we were seeing all those videos of nurses and doctors singing and dancing and jumping around in their hospital wards. Well, it's now coming out. There are military doing the same thing. Military dancing around in front of tanks, holding hands. Looks like, it doesn't look like a fight, put it that way. It doesn't look like a war's happening in the background. And there is a lot of this stuff going on. Could this just be their way of saying, hey, listen, it's all okay. We're here. The show's going on. We're dancing. It could be just that simple. I've gone over time a bit tonight, folks, so I do apologise. I probably don't have enough time to go looking back here through all the chats. Yes. Good call. Fox is 666 in numerology. Good call. Well done, Red Alert. Tony, I saw that you went off to Tim's stuff on the weekend. I think that was a great thing. A lot of people turned up in Colac and then again in Thomastown yesterday, and I believe went over really, really well. And I'm sure you learned a lot of very interesting things. Carl, why don't I just condemn Trump for being weird with young girls? Well, I've never seen him weird with a young girl. You show me where he's been weird with a young girl. And what's young? Is a 30-year-old woman young to a 60-year-old man? I suppose it is, but is there anything wrong with it? How many 30-year-olds are married to 60-year-olds these days? So, Jenny, by all means, send me the proof of Trump being weird with young girls. Because I would never endorse that. I would never. But he is a billionaire, and I don't know what sort of a life you've led, and some of you might find this particular statement a little bit weird and funny, but even fat, ugly little radio announcers like me used to have women throw themselves at me simply because I was on the radio. I was never a person who took up those sorts of offers, just between you, me, and the Gatepost. And it never ceased to amaze me that there were women willing to do that. And I guess you've all seen it. If you've lived through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and you went to concerts and bands and all that kind of stuff, if you were lucky enough to get close to the band, and I'll tell you a story. I took a girl to a concert one night. It was the Uncanny X-Men. Now, I'd known Brian Mannix for a fair while at that stage. So we were going to go backstage, catch up with the band, have a few drinks before the show, and then go back and party with them after the show. So that's exactly what we did. And I was trying pretty hard to impress this young lady because I was a bit keen. And we had a fabulous night. We got to the venue, went and met the band, had a few beers, had a bit of a laugh, went and watched the gig, went back upstairs afterwards, much more drinking, much more partying. And next thing, the girl I was with had disappeared. So had Brian, and so had one of the other guys. And I don't know, half an hour later, they all managed to materialize back again. I got to take her home to her place afterwards. That's when I first began to realize there are some, and I suppose there's men out there too who do it, but there are women out there who will quite happily throw themselves at what they perceive to be a powerful or wealthy or influential man. Or in my case, I don't know what the hell they saw. But it happens more regularly, Jenny, than you would probably believe. So without knowing exactly what you refer to when you say Trump is being weird with young girls, I'm not prepared to say that he is weird with young girls, because I have not seen him be weird with young girls. I've seen Joe Biden be weird with young girls. I've seen Barack Obama be weird with young boys. Is that the kind of weirdness you're referring to, Jenny? If it is, send me the details, send me the proof. Or are you just another troll in here trying to slag off and or you believe the false narrative? Using your own words, weird with young girls. Show me that proof. Or realign the way you speak, because you are pushing a narrative that is fake, unless you can back it up with fact. So I hope you manage to be able to do that. It would be nice. I'm going to go because my voice is about to give up. I will tell you, folks, please, for the love of God, will somebody please go and buy the last 8 tickets in this lotto draw? We have 742 of them sold as of right now. Let me just refresh this and see that it's the same still. Otherwise, we might be into our new lottery. But no, I have 8 tickets left in this $750 draw. If you jump on, and I think they're $2 each, so we're $16 shy of giving away $750 to one of you. We would love that, and we'll be able to help Sandy out with a little bit more. And Sandy, I see in your messages in there today, you've had a couple of new ones arrive who are needing a bit of love and attention. So they're definitely in the right place for that. So I'm so glad. And you've got a semi-load full of hay turned up today, so that's got to be a good thing. And hopefully by tomorrow, we'll be able to send you a little bit more cash out of this lotto draw, and you can put it towards whatever the donkeys need. Because that's what we try and do, folks. The money that we get out of this, we split with Sandy. We pay a few of our bills out of it, and we hope to help her pay, or at least put a little bit of money towards her bills. Her bills are a lot bigger than ours. So we'd like to help there as much as possible. And 8 tickets left in this lotto, or this lottery, for $750. Then we will restart. There will be another $750 draw. And the faster that we can get that one through, we are going to go and do something a little special with our 5th draw. And that is, thanks to a couple of you who I think want to remain, I'm pretty sure they don't want me to tell you who they are, but they have donated a gram of gold. This particular gram of Ainsley gold, it's in one of the Ainsley untamperable or tamper-evident packets, and it is in my hot little hand. In fact, I've got it right here beside me. Now, we're going to give that away along with the first prize, or the $750 prize, in draw number 5. That isn't, we're just about to finish draw number 3. So, folks, please help me out, knock over those last 8 tickets, and let's get into the next 740 or 750. And then when draw 5 comes along, we are going to have a added little bonus, which by the time, judging by the way it's going at the moment, we've probably got another 2 weeks before we get to this. By the time that happens, the price of gold could well make your little lot that much better. I think these grams are just under $200 each at the moment. So that would take your $750 prize up to $950 or thereabouts. And the price of gold is only going up. So expect by the time you get it, it's probably worth a bit more again. It's a great little investment. Thank you to 2 of our wonderful viewers who care for me greatly, and I can't thank them enough for what they do. And they wanted to be able to share this with you. So they did say, have another lotto, Carl, or have another lottery, or give away this. We've decided that we will do it in conjunction with this lottery, and you never know, there might be another one to give away a little down the track too. So please, folks, come and help us out. If you can pick up the last of those 8 tickets at VOF. Oh, I beg your pardon, it's at our merch site. Let me post it up into the chat so that you can see it. And once you've been able to purchase those last ones, don't worry if you don't get tickets in the 3rd draw, you can buy tickets in the 4th. We've got to knock the 4th one over before we can get to the gold draw. So please, folks, if you can help us out, go to that website I've just posted up in the chat there, or it is listed in the description of the video. Click on it, spend $2, help save or help provide a little bit of food, not necessarily save, but help provide a little bit of food for the donkeys, and maybe get yourself $750 along with it. Look forward to talking to you again tomorrow night. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff that comes out overnight tonight. So tomorrow night we should have a winner that we can announce. Fingers crossed. You will be notified, folks. So if you've bought tickets in this draw, those last 8, I hope, will go off in the next hour or so. And if they do, then we will have a winner in the next hour or so. You will receive an email within the next hour and a half or so. And if you follow those email details and reply to Vince with everything, you will have your money in your bank account tomorrow. That's how quick it would be. And a donkey pack, as Sandy has said. You will also get a donkey pack. And yeah, I've got to get you on, Sandy. You keep saying you're going to ring me. You never do. I don't know. You're busy, I know. But anyway, love you, darling. We'll have you on. You're going to have to get a donkey pack and show us what all that is one night, so we can show it. Donkeys rule. Ain't that the truth? I love donkeys. They are just some of the most special animals God has ever blessed us with. And I feel very grateful that I've been able to make friends with Sandy and Baz. And anytime I want to, I can go down there and cuddle a donkey. And I still think that's one of the funniest pictures I have ever seen. Don't you love donkeys? Oh, you got to. Have yourself a good night, folks. I'm going to love you and leave you. Be safe on the roads. The dickheads are out there. And if yesterday is any indication, running off a road when there's a cliff on the other side seems to be something they're excelling at.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!